Hello and welcome to the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast made for fans, by fans, and where the content is absolutely free. We're obviously into I think it's 11 weeks of lockdown, 12 maybe, but we're keeping going here at Gersnet. And thank you for joining us during these uncertain times. Obviously, you're joining us live tonight on YouTube, and remember, you can obviously subscribe and share the podcast on social media. It's also available after the live broadcast on Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, and Spotify. Joining me, the host David Wren tonight, is Stewart Weir, regular contributor. Good evening, Stewart. How are you doing?
Yes, all good, David. All good. Hope it's the same at your end. I'm glad you raised the question there of how many weeks we had been in lockdown. I think I lost count after 6 or 7, so to hear it's now up to 11 or 12 is a bit of a shock.
Yeah, I think I actually said 10, 11 or 12, so I actually too pure myself.
We're going to argue.
Yes, joining Stuart and I tonight is a first time podcast guest. He is, I'm told, well known in the writing scene within the Rangers support, and he's joining us tonight. We're delighted to have him. It's Alec Anderson. Alex, good evening.
Good evening, David, and evening to Stuart as well. And thanks very much for having us on, guys. Long time listener, first time caller, and I'm just as nervous as anything, but really delighted to be on. And I'm actually kind of wondering why Frankie, Stuart, the boss, after getting to 3,000 subscribers last week, is sought to get myself back down to about 2,000 by first thing tomorrow morning. But absolute pleasure to be on, boys. And it's, as we're saying, it just gives us something else. If nothing else, it's something to do during this unbelievably weird period for all of us.
Maybe it's a scene or the same kind of setting as the movie The Producers, where he's tried to having managed relative success, suddenly decided to turn it into a failure because he's got an insurance policy out there that means he might need to cash in on it if it suddenly turns going to a downward spiral. So maybe there's more to his methods than we actually know.
Well,
It's springtime for Hitler. That's it. Yes, it makes sense. It makes sense now.
Well, he's chosen a good night to have you on anyway, because you're on with two seasoned hacks. So as you know, we won't try and catch you out with any questions at all tonight, because that's not our style. However, it's been a relatively busy week in terms of what's been going on at Ibrox, and the main sort of talking point, certainly over the weekend, has been the signing of Calvin Bassey from Leicester. Alex, I'll come to you first. It was never, it sort of caught us all by surprise, I suppose, this signing, and his pedigree isn't perhaps massive. He's coming from a Premier League club, but certainly it looks like most of his time has been spent in the sort of development squad there. But what was your first reaction to this signing?
It was nice to see us making another signing. I think if we hadn't tied up Hadji last week, you'd maybe be a bit worried, thinking, is this what it's going to be? But it's a kind of nice pairing, if you like. You've had the kind of high profile, big money signing, albeit it's a fella that's on loan with us just now, and now you've got the kind of bolstering of the squad type of signing. By the way, I hope that's what it is. I hope he is bolstering the squad. I think in the time of COVID and worrying about the revenue streams and what have you, albeit that we're doing well in season ticket sales and the Castor deals when you bring in a lot of money for us in the My Gers and what have you, you're worried like Barisic, he might not actually cover for Barisic. He might end up being, the new Barisic. But the guy sounds like just your standards kind of Shea Ojo, Arabo. This kind of, he's done well in the reserves. He's caught the eye. Steven Gerrard, he's been recommended to him. There was nice wee headlines kicking about today saying that West Ham and Bayer Leverkusen had been after him as well. Whether that's true or not, I don't really know. But it's the nice thing you like to hear about a player who hopefully is going to be a squad player and will eventually, push on and be a mainstay.
Stuart, obviously, in terms of the signings that the club has made, and even over the past 4 or 5 years, certainly since Warburton came in, there's been a lot of players have come up from England, maybe that have played development squads, have played in the lower leagues, and there's probably only about a handful have done well. How important is it for this boy to really understand, what he's coming into when he comes up here, because it's going to be a different sort of situation for him to what he's used to.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to several people during the course of the week, 1 or 2 who are quite close to Leicester City as well, and the general consensus was that whilst he might not have been one of the top picks, so to speak, or top of people's lists, he also wasn't somebody who they were surprised at. It was almost like, well, they could see why maybe Rangers would make a move for him, and also why the fact that he might be quite encouraged to move to Glasgow. I think the big thing with this is, David, you're absolutely spot on in what you've said about Rangers and their recruitment. I think, at some point, Rangers need to start walking the walk rather than just talking the talk. I think they need to be seen to have a formalised policy when it comes to recruitment, and that's on 2 fronts, really. The first front is that you're looking to recruit guys that are going to assist the squad, make the squad better, whether they come in and bolster the first team squad, or whether they come in and make a name for themselves and suddenly you find out you've unearthed a diamond, so to say. The other thing is that the guys that have come in, I was sort of running through this in my head. If you bring somebody in, regardless of how much they cost, there's an outlay. You're looking to recoup that, and I think too often in the past, Rangers fans will have been disappointed that, having, heralded a new signing and trumpeted how good they are, they don't really, push on, and you don't really see them, developing into the kind of player that maybe you would like to think they would have developed into. And if somebody does that, they then you sort of 2 paths. One is they improve the team. The other is that they reach a certain level where they attract the attentions from other clubs, and rather than the clubs coming in so you can get these guys off your wage bill, ultimately, which has happened far too often in terms of Rangers in previous seasons, you actually sell these guys for a considerable profit. Now, I would have to say that certain clubs, namely Celtic, have recruited far better when it comes to actually selling guys on and making a considerable profit. You can't really look at anybody that Rangers have brought in and said, well, they paid X number of millions for them and sold them for 5 times that or 6 times that. It just hasn't happened. So I think ultimately there's a lot riding, not just in this guy, but in a number of the signings that Rangers bring in, because you want to see them, improve. You want to see them making the team better, but ultimately you want to see other people talking about these guys, because that's where the net success actually might be.
Alec, just to pick up on that point Stuart made there, it's something that the club hasn't been great at in terms of some of these players we brought in, and even Josh Windass, Matt Crooks, going back that far, these were guys that were supposed to come in and make his money, and really since we came back up, there's not a clear success story on that front. And obviously when we look at things now, you've got Barisic there, you've got Morelos, obviously, and others. how important is it? I mean, again, we've spoken about this even in the podcast a few times, but how important is it that the club really starts to make money from developing players, you know, especially coming into this uncertain time with coronavirus?
I think it's absolutely essential. I mean, you're looking back at what Jean-Alec Boumsong.
Yeah.
When Boumsong, I mean, he kind of provided the momentum for us to actually win the league that season. I think we went a wee bit backwards when he left, kind of winter time, wasn't it? I think he went at Christmas time, and I think we made a bit of profit on him. I think it'll not be the last one. I'm just gonna clutching here. I know a Rangers damn memory going, but
actually, Alex, I don't think you're too far. I don't think you're too far actually away from that being the best shout that you'll come up with. In all seriousness, I mean, I was thinking about this for a wee while today, and you know, Boumsong was the name that came into my head, and then I thought, no, there must be somebody else after that, and I don't really, I couldn't think of anybody after that. So you might actually be right, and if that's how long ago it is, that tells you everything you need to know about recruitment.
That's an indictment, isn't it? It really is an indictment.
Yeah.
I think we need to, obviously, we need to have kind of a joined up policy, but it's just the temptation. No, just the temptation is to see it as we're coming back. We're constantly coming back since 2012, and there's various hits we've had to take along the way on and off the park. And I think the temptation's there to say, well, this is where we are just now. We're having to take a chance on, you know, your Arabos, your Ojos, and then every now and then you'll get a Ryan Kent. But I think we're all at a position just now. We know the club needs to be able to sell on for a lot of money as well. Just the general, before COVID even come in, that's just the state Scottish football was in. But I think we're wanting to see players come into the club who are going to make an impact without us having to try them out, basically. I mean, you get Ojo and it goes and scores against Feyenoord in the Europa League, you know, and he's great, but then it's just not happening for the rest of the season. It's inconsistency that you're going to get for a player, even since we signed Ryan Kent. I know he's not had the consistency that we've all wanted. And when we're looking at who we're going to sign for the season coming, which shouldn't be the season coming, it should be this season getting finished, if you like. But you want guys to come in there that are going to sort out the problem that Ryan Kent diagnosed in that post-match interview in Braga. He just said we don't have the mentality. He didn't say it, and that's not what he was saying. He was saying we like it when the pressure's off us, but we need guys to come in just now who know how to win. They've got that mentality. And to be honest, I was more excited by the rumour about Stuart Armstrong. I mean, about this, a few Rangers fans might not like that, but I thought that's a guy who, if nothing else, he might have been doing it in the wrong jersey, but he knows how to win in Scottish football. Lyndon Dykes, you know, another one we're supposed to be going for. I'm not so sure. He's certainly kind of ragdolled us in that League Cup game, but you've not got the evidence there that he's anything different to what Ryan Kent was talking about. He's a guy who turned it on against Celtic. I think he scored a hat-trick against Ross County, but he's turned it on against Celtic, he's turned it on against Rangers, but is he going to come in and be that guy that's going to lift us, you know, when we're going through one of these, when we're going to time cancel for the third time in the season and just haven't turned up? We need to get that kind of player in, and I'm more concerned about getting these guys in that are going to change the mentality of the club, you know, than I am about who we're going to sell on.
I think that's a key point, Stuart. And when you look at the players that Rangers do have, you know, even in comparison to the last team that won the league, you know, you had a lot of players in that team that knew how to win games, and I think that was what made us so successful, you know, in that period with teams that could grind out results. At the moment, you know, at the turn of the year when we beat Celtic at Parkhead, and then you were thinking, right, we're coming back. In a very similar position actually to what we were in the year previous, and then it was as if they just crumbled. How important is it to, you know, have a strong core of a team that can you know, pull the rest along, especially if you want to win the league?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the last couple of years, David, there have been certain signings that have been made and the fans will have been told these are the guys that are signing. These are the guys that will make the difference. These are the guys, as you say, will pull the rest of the guys along and on to another level. And it just hasn't quite happened now. Whether that's because the task has been too great for them, or they have, lost their spark and a bit of their form that made them targets in the first place. I'm never quite sure. Sometimes there's a series of factors that come into play, but you're looking for guys, a core of the team that's there currently, that have been there for a couple of seasons and playing under the same manager for a couple of seasons. You would have to think that these are the tried and trusted guys and the tested guys that Steven Gerrard is building his team around now. And what again, for whatever reasons, I sometimes think that Kent hasn't quite maybe reached the standards or the consistency that people saw when he was a lone player. Whether the signing, he's thought, well, I've made it now, and he's going into cruise control. Again, I'm not sure, but you're looking for guys to kick on, and whether it's a new signing that comes in or whether it's somebody who's already there, or the likes of in the case of the most recent signings, the likes of Hadji. Rangers are spending 3 million or whatever it was in Hadji. They've spent 7 million on Kent. With all due respect, 7 million might be a fortune in Scottish football and substantial for Rangers. But the actual fact of the matter is that there are clubs, further down. Okay, there's a lot more money in England, but there's, that would buy you at best a championship player. And I think that has to be the sort of realization that in Scottish football, that kind of money is buying you somebody who might be targeted by a championship club rather than somebody who's going to the Bundesliga or La Liga to play. So maybe what seems like a small fortune in your eyes isn't that much, and actually what you've ended up with is a £7 million player. And as I say, £7 million is a lot of money in Scotland. It's not really that much elsewhere in Europe.
Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of Scotland, we're certainly financially nowhere near some of the clubs even we're coming up against in Europe.
Can I just somebody else is coming into my head actually. We were mentioning Boomsong there. Carlos Cuellar would probably be somebody who was, I think he was signed for about, what was it, 2.5 million and sold for, well, whatever $7.5 million. So that's sort of 3 times your money. But again, the fact that you've got to think it's hard to come up with something like that shows you what a rarity it actually is. And it just sort of reaffirms the point I was trying to make, that spending money on guys, if you get 2 types of return. One, you get it on the pitch, which I think, going back to the days of Cuellar, I think they certainly got on the pitch, and then the sort of resale value, which was sort of 3 times their money. And I think, again, going forward, those are the type of purchases that, well, everybody's trying to strive for, but in particular, I think Rangers need to be seen to be actually recruiting people that are actually worth something tangible at the end of it.
No, that's a good shout, Stuart. Cuellar, and that was an absolute Rolls Royce of a player. There'll be guys, Rangers fans sitting out there listening to this, and they'll be shouting players at his left, right, and centre that we've kind of forgotten about. But I think you're right in what you're saying. We've got to have a sell-on value for these guys. That's how the club's going to survive. And it's that thing of having to then spend the money properly that you get for these sales. But I think this is a problem. If, like the fella Bassi that we've signed this weekend, the talk of West Ham or Bayer Leverkusen being interested in him, as you're saying, straight away you're thinking, well, if they were interested, they would just take him. You know, they would absolutely have him. And the problem we've got when it comes to these kind of players is the scouting systems throughout Europe. They're just, I mean, like forensic now. I don't know how they do it, but they know everybody's on the radar, and nobody shows anything at all. So we're basically using Steven Gerrard's name to get decent youngsters. We're using his links with Liverpool, and that's actually it can make you worry for the future if Gerrard hopefully takes us on to great success and he eventually goes to Liverpool himself. And we've got to have something in place, as you were saying, Stuart. We've got to have something, a kind of model in place that's kind of joined up, and we know how we're going to go in the future, how we're going to get the right type of talent, how we're going to bring it on, how we're going to sell it on.
Staying with you, Alec. The signing of Hadji was obviously a relatively, I mean, albeit from the discussion we just had, small time money across Europe, but for us, a £3 million outlay, especially in the current climate, as I keep saying. Are you concerned that that perhaps the amount of players that we were going to bring in, to help us, rejig the squad slightly? Do you feel that could be curtailed slightly by what's going on? Because obviously income isn't going to be quite as much as it could be for all clubs, really.
That's a massive concern, David. I think it's just we really don't know what's going to happen. In many ways, it's like, guys, we're sitting here tonight, we're talking about the football. You're trying to get yourself back into that mode of talking about signings and how do you think we're going to play it next season, who's going to go where. But it's just at the back of the front of your mind is just the fact that football might not happen. It still might not happen. I mean, we're going to kick up. They're going back to training on Thursday, which, by the way, is the day Euro 2020 was supposed to be starting. And we're waiting for the following Thursday. There's going to be a kind of second government kind of review of the lockdown easing, and we'll find out if they're able to, we're going to kind of go back to normal, which I don't think. I just can't see it happening. I don't know. I find it difficult to kind of project and to kind of get into it. What I would like to happen at Rangers when you just don't know what's happening with society in general. I think Hadji would be the kind of a perfect signing, perfect investment. But if kind of what you're maybe alluding to, if it turns out we're taking a massive financial hit somewhere because of the COVID. I mean, like they're talking about, players will have to be getting tested twice a week. You're trying to create a biosecure environment at a football club. Players are going to have to get tested twice a week. If there's one positive case, I think it's going to be a case that the club has to kind of shut down for 14 days. I just find it really difficult to believe that's not going to be happening on a regular basis. I would actually find it more difficult to believe if there was no positive testing. So I don't really know. I don't really know how football is going to get back on its feet. And I think it's going to start having a real drain on resources. And there's just that horrible feeling in the back of your mind when you're talking about this stuff just now that we're kind of living in fantasy land. We've got to move forward. We've got to plan for the future. Life's got to go back to normal somehow. But I'm just worried that Hadji kind of exemplifies what's going on. You want to be excited about the signing, and I think it was in normal circumstances, $3.5 million. There's a fire sale at Genk, $3.5 million for Hadji, absolutely brilliant. Okay, a no-brainer almost. But you're now thinking, have we actually got that kind of money? But on the other extreme, if you start thinking that way, well, we wouldn't sign Andy, So I don't know. It really is all up in the air just now.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping and praying that when we do go back on Thursday, there is a real chance. We start finding out there is a real chance that we're going to have football in August, but I remain to be convinced.
Sure, you've obviously got your ear close to the ground in terms of clubs in Scotland and what's going on in football. Do you think, or have you heard, is there a real worry among clubs and among directors at clubs. And this isn't even just a Rangers thing, but generally about the future of the game here.
Yeah, I think it's a worry and a concern for everybody. There might not be a queue of people saying these things publicly, but there is a concern. I think just now people don't want to sound too concerned in case it puts the frighteners on others, be it sponsors or season ticket sales, or even even general fans who might actually think I might be booking a holiday rather than going back to watch football, or it might be difficult to book a holiday as well. I think speaking to people, there is a worry because, as Alec rightly points out, I think it's so fickle just now. The least we change, an incremental change on anything that's happening just now could throw everything into a tailspin again. And as an old boss used to say, in such circumstances, you end up tap dancing in eggshells, and that's what it's like. You're trying to plan for a future, except you're not sure what that future is actually going to look like. You don't know how the future is going to pan out. If you get a clear run at it, then you might have half a chance. But given the fact that we are seeing a return to football in England just now, yet in Scotland, there seems to there seems to be a real issue about when football returns, and more importantly, when crowds return. You can basically have a demonstration in Glasgow Green at 48 hours notice and invite as many of your pals along, and nothing untowards happens. But if you're a football club who actually needs to attract people through the gates to stay afloat and to survive, that's being frowned upon, and you're told you can't do it. And I think there's a number of football fans being quite aggrieved just now that football seems to be singled out for almost like individual treatment, whereas other people are just doing what they like. And how long that lasts, I'm not quite sure. But the biggest thing is, I think that we have to, we've got a date, albeit in my mind, far from an ideal date. The 1st of August is when we start playing the new league season. That just happens to coincide with the FA Cup final. And I know there'll be a great many people more interested in watching the FA Cup final than they will the start of Scottish football, which will be totally alien to them. But that's where we're at. But I think, that's the date we're aiming for. Let's get started on that date and then see what the consequences are thereafter.
Yeah, and obviously it's been well documented what's going on in Scottish football during the coronavirus pandemic. There's been a lot of decisions made. Alec, one of the proposals to come to light this week was one from Rangers actually, and it was to possibly reconstruct the leagues, which has obviously been mentioned. Certainly, even in my career over the past 7 years, the amount of times I've even done stories on league reconstruction has been incredible. But this is where it's head again. Rangers proposing a 14-14 team, league with B teams from both Old Firm sides in the bottom tier. Straight away, Peterhead, Forfar, a lot of clubs, even Ross County, saying this wouldn't work. What are your thoughts on A, the setup suggestion, and B, the cult teams?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I'm actually wondering what Rangers are up to here, and this maybe be lockdown kind of playing with my mind, sending me a bit paranoid about a cabin fever or whatever, but paranoid in a good way. I liked it. The proposal itself, I don't really know if anybody could be bothered with any more reconstruction. We've all had it up to our back teeth. as you're saying there, David. And I think obviously the Colts thing is a smashing idea for Rangers. You know, it's a good way to develop the players and all that. But I like how it felt. I can't help feeling as if it was a kind of political move. I feel as if we're actually trying to look like power brokers. We're trying to kind of get ahead of this. Well, we don't want to get ahead of a car crash, but that's what it's going to turn into. The way the leagues has been awarded by committee, and I think it was Stephen Clifford, I think, said on this pod a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last week, about it being a marathon, no a sprint for Rangers to get back to the top of the game, the top of Scottish football. And it feels to me like we've presented a blueprint just to be seen to be proactive, to be seen to be doing something. And the fact that Celtic are rumoured, or they've actually said they're going to come on board, they like the idea as well. It's almost a wee kind of Godfather moment. You keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. I know there's a lot of guys, a lot of the teams. I was listening to Radio Scotland yesterday, and you could hear like the Elgin chairman. He wasn't happy at all. As you're saying, Forfar and Clyde, I think, are unhappy about it as well. But there's also a good bit of support for it. But to be honest, I don't think the actual proposal itself, which seems to have borrowed from another of a proposal on the Colts side of it anyway, was drawn up by Chris McCart and I can't remember the other fellow's name a couple of years ago. It seems to have borrowed quite heavily from that, and that it was something that was liked by a few. It's no plagiarism. It's just Rangers are trying to push something that a lot of chairmen had actually shown approval for. I feel as if we're just trying to show that we can actually kind of be at the top table, so to speak. I'm definitely starting to sound like a bit cabin fever here, but I think we're trying to look like we're negotiators, we're power brokers, everybody's thrown, Anne Budge is thrown in her proposal. We've got that other, I can't remember the fella's name, the investor fella for Hearts, who's been giving money to every other club in the league, and we all have our suspicions about what Peter Lawwell's been doing. And it feels like in an age where the most important trophy in Scottish football has been negotiated to Celtic, we should get in there and try to get ahead of this and start doing some heavy duty negotiation of our own. I don't think it might also be playing to the galleries, and there's a kind of a body of opinion out there on Twitter, for example, amongst a few bears, just feeling the club has kind of dropped the ball by not pursuing legal action against the SPFL, against Doncaster for the way things happened. It might be they're just trying to deflect from that by kind of moving the conversation. But I quite like it. I don't actually know if it's going to go ahead. I'm not really particularly bothered about the actual proposal itself, but I like the fact they've made that proposal. It's like we're starting to shape the game again, and we've realised the way things have gone the past few months, that's what you've got to do. You've got to be heavy hitters around about the committee table.
Sure. In terms of the Scottish football, this is obviously brought a lot to light over the past few weeks and months. Do you think this could be a sort of watershed moment for the Scottish football in terms of how it markets itself and how it can be the best that it possibly can be?
In reconstruction of Scottish football, honestly, maybe it's an age thing, and Alex is talking about cabin fever. Maybe I'm past that stage. maybe I've had the fever, and it's just a sign of weakness that it'll just leaves me absolutely dead. It leaves me cold. It's like a game of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You'll be back. If 14 teams in the top flight is suddenly such a good idea now, why was it not such a good idea 5 years ago? Ultimately, or if once again, and once again, the proposals from Rangers, I can see the merit within those proposals. What I can also see is the hostility almost immediately, that there are clubs saying, "Oh, well, we don't like this," and I think if you actually you drill down not very far, you probably find out that their hostility and their reticence to actually look at this actually comes from the fact that it's Rangers that's proposed it, and they'll be wondering, well, look at this, Rangers are doing a favour to Celtic by bringing in the Colts teams. Um, it works in other countries. I don't see why it's never been accepted or been found to be acceptable in Scotland. Again, other people will have reasons for that. However, what I will say is that we have another proposal that has gone from 3 leagues of 14 teams to suddenly 2 leagues of 14 and maybe one of 18 if you bring in, the winners of the North and the South sort of qualification tournaments. Once again, Scottish football seems to find its default setting as if you're looking to get a fix, you add teams to the mix. And with the greatest will in the world, and this, and I've said it often enough in Talk Sport, and I've said it elsewhere. Scottish football, we are struggling. We are absolutely struggling just now with 42 teams without actually increasing it by another 4. It's mind-blowingly, crazy in my mind. It's baffling. Your default setting is to increase the matches. Now we all know why, because your starting point is that every team wants to be playing the Old Firm 4 times a season. And if they don't get to play them 4 times, well, we at least get 3 matches against Rangers and Celtic. Fine, I can see that, but that doesn't do the product any good whatsoever in my mind. What you end up is you've got the teams that are challenging at the top. You've got a whole bunch of teams that think this fictitious top 6 as if it's like, some demarcation line. If you get above that, then you're a fantastic team. And if you're below that, you're not quite so fantastic. So you end up with a league where you've got a couple of teams fighting for the top spot, some trying to get into Europe, some just hoping for survival, and then half the league is trying to avoid relegation. That doesn't help you bring in any players of any quality whatsoever. The last team to basically say, we're going up and we're going to just play the kids and give them a chance, and if we come back down again, so be it. The last team to actually say that and actually carry it out was probably Hamilton Accies 10 years ago or 12 years ago, and they did it. And look how they've profited from that. They sold 2 guys to Wigan. The 2 Jameses went to Wigan. 1 or 2 other players were sold on as well. And Accies were financially sorted for a good few years. Why? Because they took that upon themselves. That was going to be their tactics. Now, if you can bring in and introduce youngsters, to my mind, you could. I don't think Rangers would need, or Celtic would need to be approaching bringing in Colts teams, because ultimately you could then farm out your players to other teams on loan and get them playing first team football elsewhere rather than in the lowest league, because you're just trying to make up the numbers. I'm always bemused, sometimes baffled at how people think that these are the solutions. The biggest solution for me is that we get away from trying to appease people and trying to please everybody, and and saying, "Oh, wouldn't it be a tragedy if we lost any football clubs?" No, it wouldn't be. It would be a tragedy if you supported one of those teams, but ultimately, if you're not big enough to survive and you don't survive, that's the name of the game. It happens in the high street, it happens in the industry, it happens in other businesses, and for it not to be happening in Scottish football, I mean, I know journalists and people in other countries, in Denmark and Holland and Norway, and they'll look at it and honestly openly laugh. They openly laugh at me when you say how many, one guy that I know in Norway, every time I have a conversation with him, the first thing he asks is, how many teams are in Scotland now? I've got to the stage where I just laugh back, and secondly, I couldn't actually tell him sometimes because it's changed so often.
Sure. Just to interrupt you, does he also ask you how come every few years you have the team finishing 7th in your top flight has got more points than the team that finished 6th? Every time I look at that, it's Sky Sports News or that, you're watching the league tables coming up the side of the screen. We have more dotted lines than any other league in Britain. We've got you've got the dotted lines that they put, under the first place for that's your Champions League qualifier. Then you've got your second and third. That's your Europa League teams there. Then we've got the wee relegation playoff dotted lines. Your team that's actually going to get relegated. And then when it gets towards the end of the season, we slap this dotted line across the middle of a 12-team table.
Yeah. The thing about that is, Alex, I mean, this is maybe getting away from what we should be talking about, but the gist of it is that there are chairmen and fans who see this top 6, bottom 6. It's a fictitious line. It doesn't actually exist. It means nothing. All it means is you actually get a chance to play Rangers and Celtic another twice compared to playing Hamilton Accies or St Mirren or Motherwell or whoever it might be. So I've never bought into this. The guy that actually started this, and this will be going back 20 years ago, Gordon Smith, long before he had anything to do with the SFA or back, being at Rangers or anything like that, was basically advocating this cut-off point and then getting into these sort of wee mini leagues. He advocated that 20 years ago. The fact of the matter is that nobody has come up with a better solution. Tells you everything you need to know about the great thinkers there are in Scottish football. There are none. So listen, well, I as I used to say, watch this space. We'll see what the teams want, what the clubs want. I don't think it's such a bad idea, but 14 teams in the top flight leaves me kind of slightly cold. I think it's time that, when Rangers ended up in the bottom tier of Scottish football, all you ever heard from various chairmen and owners who were quite happy to pontificate at Rangers' demise. We have to cut our cloth accordingly, and these are the guys that are scrambling about just now, trying to survive. Why? Because you didn't actually cut your cloth accordingly. You left it a year and you went back to norm. And there's some clubs, why is it Dundee United think they should be spending more than Dunfermline? Because there's nothing to suggest that one that will get any more money than Dunfermline. There's nothing to suggest that they're actually going to be a better team or a bigger club than what Dunfermline are or Falkirk are just now. That was maybe the case 25 years ago or 30 years ago or 35 years ago. Yeah, it was. But since then, things have changed. And just because you've got a certain name or your club, you think your club's got a certain status, does not mean to say that you have to go and spend, daft money on certain things. If you can't afford it, don't spend it. But again, we're falling into the trap. Too many, as I say, directors and owners and the likes have thought, well, the only way we're going to get out of this is to spend money. And the very thing that they were, they pointed the finger, especially at Rangers a couple of years ago, and went, well, you've only got yourselves to blame, is now the position we find ourselves in, trying to bail everybody out because they can't afford to survive.
Aye.
On that note, discussing the actual finances of it, I suppose, Stuart Robertson was interviewed by Rangers TV through the week, and he discussed a range of issues, one of which being what he describes as the incredible season ticket sales, which have helped to purchase Hadji, and he says more are on the way. Alec, in terms of, you know, the fans, it's an incredible show of loyalty to you know, just put their hands in their pockets yet again and sell out season tickets in such an incredible way.
Yeah, and I think it's a sign of the kind of determination that was just redoubled after the events of 2012. As Stewart was talking about, there was a lot of teams that were quite happy to tell us it was all our fault and we just have to deal with it. And we have dealt with it. We've dealt with it by coming back. It's something anybody who has read anything that I ever wrote, ranting and raving about Rangers, something I was always against was a kind of cultification, if you like, of a football club. And you know, you don't have to be Freud to work out why, you know, because of what was happening across the city all the time. I liked the idea of, I don't think there's anything wrong with just seeing football as a passion, but a pastime nonetheless. But I must admit, I changed completely. Not so much by, I mean, the events of 2012, devastating in their own right, you know, but it was the reaction of the rest of Scottish football, which I think just caused a sea change in the Rangers support and in the mentality. And I wouldn't say we're nothing like a cult. I'll be careful how I pronounce that. But there's definitely a redoubling of the determination to get back to the top. We're coming back like a, you know, never mind the Phoenix analogies. We're just coming back like a steamroller in terms of support, at least. And I think the club are actually catching up. You know, I think there's a lot of the kind of cart before the horse stuff going at Rangers. You know, Gerrard, I think, is as a manager is ahead of the board. You know, and the kind of state the board's in, and the board is catching up. And I like a lot of stuff that they're doing just now, but it's taken a few years. And I think the support has been ahead of the manager and ahead of the team by every manager we've had. They've been absolutely tremendous. And we're talking about cabin fever. I think that the thing that's happened the past few months, we've all been locked in. I don't know about you guys, but it's when you actually try to do something kind of normal, when you kind of forget for a second what's going on. I think that's when it kind of hits you. And it was actually the Friday. I think the Friday was a couple of Fridays ago. Last Friday, maybe the first. I pay my season ticket quarterly. The 4 payments, just kind of renews automatically. So that payment come off in the Friday, and you kind of noted that, and you just thought that's standard, and it hits you. Oh no, this isn't standard. We don't know that football is going to be played. And it was the next day I was basically going to do some shopping, and I found myself kind of driving down Crow Road towards the Clyde Tunnel, and I didn't have the radio on. There was no music playing or nothing, but I found myself getting a bit emotional. It was actually kind of welling up, and I suddenly realised it was like, I've not been doing this road. This is the road I usually take to Ibrox, and I've been telling everybody that I don't miss the football because I don't miss the grief, you know. And I realised that I was talking out of whole arse. I missed Rangers like nothing else in this world, and I suddenly realised this is massive. The fact that everybody's, and I think it is going to be everybody, certainly everybody who can afford it is renewing their season ticket, and those who can't, there'll be somebody there to take their place. I think it's really moving, and we were talking about how it's difficult to find things to talk about, or we thought it was going to be difficult to find things to talk about when the football's not on. Well, even the football's not getting played, the Rangers support are showing their loyalty, and it's a loyalty I don't think Scottish football has ever seen.
I think you're right there, Alex. I think, you know, going back 6-7 years ago, whatever it was, I think there was a point in time there where Rangers fans in particular felt the world was against them and took it upon themselves to show people that regardless what you try and do at our club, you will never beat us or defeat us in terms of the loyalty that we show to our club. Hence the reason why Rangers have a fantastic, a fantastic support, and the fact that, this week Stewart Robertson can come out and talk about the loyalty and the season ticket sales and the likes. Others can only imagine and only dream about what that backing, is like. But again, whilst you have to admire that, it's based on proving people wrong rather than the quality of the product on show.
Correct.
And I think that bit of it is something that's been brought home to me in recent weeks when they've shown the likes of the highlights of various games in Scottish football and various Rangers games at that as well over the last couple of weeks. And it's when you see Rangers playing against Porto, when Alex McLeish was the manager and Rangers, beat Porto 3-2 in the Champions League, or when you see Rangers against PSV, or you see Rangers against Celtic in the game in 1999 when they I think it would be October or November when they beat Celtic 4-2 at Ibrox, and you look at the quality within that team and the quality within the game in general, and you realise that Scottish football just now is a shadow. It really is a shadow of where we were 20 years ago, and the fact that Rangers Rangers are in a very, very fortunate position that the fans are extremely entrenched in their ways and in their thinking, and still supporting the team to the extent that they do, because if it was based on what they'd actually achieved in the last couple of years, you would see a diminishing of that support and that income. So in terms of what Stewart Robertson's saying, yeah, by all means praise the fans, but I also think there has to be a realisation within the boardroom at Ibrox that you cannot just, watch for the fans rocking in and spending their money on season tickets if they are not going to get that level of, a certain level of success, be it as a title challengers or winning some trophies. Rangers have won a trophy for a very, very long time, and at some point, if this continues, blind loyalty will not be enough at Ibrox. Fans will start to, demand more. I think there are the demands are there just now, but ultimately they'll demand even more, because you cannot charge fans what you charge them for season books and then not deliver on the pitch.
Other things that Stewart Robertson mentioned in the interview through the week, one of them was certainly the plans for the 150th anniversary. Alec, I'm sure you remember the plans back in the day for the casino across from the main. But these seem a bit more manageable. These plans, 2-story megastore in Edison House with a concert space, upgrading hospitality sections, which personally I think has been a long time coming, and changing the megastore into a sports bar with Bar 72 becoming a hospitality lounge. That all sounds pretty exciting, doesn't it?
It does, aye. It does. I'll have to dust down my tux that I've kept for all these years in mothballs after the casino plans fell through. I think it was lovely just to hear us talking about, for me, joining up, to call it dots, is putting together what we've done with the stadium, really get back to 1978, and then getting Auchenhowie, and we got a training facility that was worthy of the club, and the idea that we'll now, for me, that the big symbol is a museum. Getting a museum. I think Colin Armstrong was on a few weeks ago on the pod here, and he was talking about going to Anfield and just seeing how the shop was just churning out Liverpool strips, every day of the week. Just like somebody, there's just queues of people turning up to see the whole kind of get the whole kind of Anfield experience, which has now become a thing because obviously they basically knocked down the neighbouring streets. We don't have to do that. We just have to do up what we've got. it was a lovely eyesore, the old ticket office. But it's beautiful that we're actually joining up the whole kind of Rangers experience. And Shirley, get back to the previous point, you're absolutely right. We've got to start winning trophies sharpish. But I think to have a place, Robertson was talking about, there's a kind of a massive function suite, where was it the Blue Sky Bar or something he was talking about? Argyle Suite was going to get turned into that. It sounds as if it's going to be absolutely lovely, and it will keep that kind of that image. It kind of solidifies the whole image. It starts with Ibrox itself. We know we've got world-class training facilities that are used by visiting international teams and what have you, visiting European teams. And now we're going to have a museum, and we're going to have a whole kind of basically a shopping centre. But the sounds of things where we can get the strips out. Hopefully everything goes okay with Castor, and we can get the strips out, and we can get them sold, and just a really positive place. And it's something I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, yep. I mean, that's just looking at English football is awash with money. However, the clubs there are all doing one thing, and that's building bigger stadiums. Why? If you build bigger stadiums, you increase their capacity by 10, 15, 20,000 every home match, and therefore you're guaranteed, more cash through the gates. Rangers can't really do that. I think you could increase the size of the stadium, but the bill for doing that and putting more seating in at Ibrox, whilst you might, there's a waiting list for season tickets, it would be, you would have to be guaranteeing yourself, one, the success, and two, Champions League football year in, year out, to make any kind of plans on that front to increase the capacity of the ground. I think it's reached, it's no saturation point, but I think they've built the stadium as big as it can. Therefore, you've got to seek other means of utilising the space that you've got. And, you're right, Alex, and David as well, seeing you mentioned that this is almost like the plans that are afoot just now that Stewart Robertson has mentioned are the ones that would have come around a couple of years ago had they managed to get the planning permission and all the rest of it for the casinos and the likes. So in some respects they're playing catch up with where they maybe should have been. But equally, I think you're always also looking at it that they're obviously there's a business model there and a plan there to improve things off the pitch, which ultimately means more revenues, so you can actually help the team on the pitch. And I think, Stewart Robertson said a great many things over the last, few months and even the last year and a bit. And, you'd have to say that one or two Rangers fans were beginning to think it was a bit of a kind of same sort of broken record scenario. I think this week, having spoken to various folk, I think this week he's maybe captured the mood. Maybe it's a mood of desperation that they just want to see football back, but I think he's actually captured the mood in as much as that. I don't think there's too many people criticising him or castigating him for what he's come out and said. I think they see this almost like a business model that is possible and would ultimately benefit the club. And whilst he's getting the sort of brownie points, I think he should kick on and get it done, because ultimately, if it doesn't work out, the very things that he was promising in the last week will come back and pan him in. You know what fans are like. So I think ultimately, if the plans are in place, they should charge on.
Yep. Okay. Thank you to the guests, Stewart and Alec, tonight. And thank you for listening. It's obviously remains, I think it's been said every week on this, but it remains uncertain times, and we hope that all the listeners and all your families are keeping safe during this time. You never know, hopefully We're not too far away from football returning. And hopefully over the next few weeks as well, we'll have a few different shows on offer for you. But there'll be more on that as the weeks go on. So thanks again to the guests. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, share it on social media, and until next time, goodbye.